Welcome to the Action Addicts Podcast. I am your humble host, Lord Benjamin Nathaniel Redic II. And today we've got a very special show for you all. But before we get to our special guest, I think everybody should introduce themselves. Again, I'm your humble host, Lord Benjamin Nathaniel Redic II. I am the violence conductor, and you kind of already know what I do. Steven?
Hi, I'm Steven Nativi of Ming House Wing Chun. I do Wing Chun Kung Fu, obviously, and I try my best to help preserve the arts for future generations. I'm excited to be here.
Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul. Nice to meet you all. So I teach martial arts, from Muay Thai to Jiu-Jitsu to mixed martial arts. I also am a stunt performer. I perform a lot in the Texas area. I stunt coordinate, and I love doing films and making films. So that's kind of a bit about me.
Okay.
And I am Danielle Cavanis Weatherford, and in a moment I'm going to introduce our special guest. I am the owner of the Rock Group, and also a member of a group of film actors, the Texas Film Syndicate, as well as I'm the creative director. It's morning here, so I'm a little with the words. So the chief creative director for the Austin Action Fest. And so we have a little thing that we always do with our guests, and my job is to introduce our guests in the manner that I like to do best. So, Keith, this is for you. What happens when a man rewrites the rules of action and never looks back? Born in Toledo, Ohio, he didn't grow up chasing lights. He chased discipline, language, legacy. Before ever stepping on a film set, Keith Strandberg was already fluent in Mandarin and Chinese, not for show, but for connection. That fluency opened up a portal, not to stardom, but to a cultural exchange that would change martial arts cinema forever. He didn't wait for Hollywood. He crossed oceans and wrote the screenplay No Retreat, No Surrender, with Hong Kong film legend Ning Si Yuan, a move that helped launch Jean-Claude Van Damme's movement into the cinema space, into global stardom. That alone, that enough to crown most careers. But for Keith, that was only act one. What followed was a cinematic whirlwind. Over a dozen action-packed features, Blood Moon, Superfights, The King of the Kickboxer, films where the fists were fast, the stakes were real, and the stories punched just as hard as the stunts. But Keith Strandberg's next plot twist wasn't on a call sheet. He didn't stay in LA. He moved to Switzerland, where the mountains are quiet, the watches are precise, and the storytelling still razor sharp. He is the brand manager, the director for Beauvais, a excellent, exquisite watch brand. By day, he's a professor at Webster University in Geneva, teaching film, screenwriting, and journalism to the next wave of creators. A mentor, a sensei, a builder of worlds. And by night, he shifts gears into high style and editor-in-chief of Revolution USA, a contributor to Worth magazine, where he writes about the most elegant machines ever made, luxury watches. Because when you've spent your life mastering cinematic timing, you know how to respect the craftsmanship of a perfectly calibrated movement. But Keith isn't just a filmmaker. He's a four-time Swiss national American football champion, a motorcycle adventurer who's ridden through Zimbabwe, Botswana, and South Africa. And above all, he's a family man, married to the incredible Sophie Furley Strandberg since 2007, and a father to 5 amazing children, including Kaylin, Evan, and Jay. Keith leads his life steeped in purpose, present in precision. No ego, no gimmicks, just a grounded little sharp as a blade storyteller who builds his life like he builds his films, with honor, intention, and a little cinematic flair. This isn't Hollywood glitz, this is a global level grit. A man didn't ask to be invited to the table, he built his own table. So if you're wondering where the real action happens, it's in classrooms, it's in quiet watches ticking towards greatness, it's in a father's pride, it's in a perfectly timed punchline. It's here. Keith Strandberg, welcome to the Austin Action Addicts Podcast with these wonderful people. Now buckle up, buttercups, as I always say, because this ride doesn't idle, it accelerates. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you very much. What an introduction. That was very good. I don't have Lord in front of my name. So, thank you.
You're very
I'm
welcome.
glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So I don't think most people know all that about you. They know you from the movies. I'm sure the students know you from being a professor, but most people know you from the movies and everything in the martial arts. So talk us a little bit about like how you got into that. Did you see, was there a film you watched and it kind of started everything? Or was it the martial arts side and then you kind of got into the films? Kind of talk a little bit about that.
Well, the two defining forces were writing and martial arts. So I sort of I credit the martial arts for my success because it taught me the confidence to go after what I wanted. It taught me the discipline to work hard enough to get it. And I loved the martial arts movies when I was starting. And one of the reasons why I went into Chinese language was because of the martial arts. I wanted to major in Oriental philosophy back when I first started school centuries ago. And when I started in Chinese, I realized that I needed to learn the language that the philosophy was written in. So I chose Chinese because Japanese comes from Chinese. So Chinese was the source language. And then I combined those two by contacting Wu Siyuan in Hong Kong, because I figured I could make movies equally as bad as all the movies that were out there. I had an idea to combine the action from Hong Kong with an American story, and that was the start of it all. In fact, I was taking Americans to China. One of my first jobs was as a tour director, because back then in the early 80s, you couldn't go to China as an individual. You had to join a group. So they hired a lot of guys that spoke Chinese, guys and girls, and we took people through China. And in between those two tours, I was in Hong Kong, and so I called all the martial arts studios like Golden Harvest and Run Shaw Brothers, and they all hung up on me immediately. I said, "Hey, I'm interested. I'm an American interested in making movies," and they were like, "Yeah, no thanks," and hung up. And so then I called Seasonal, and I knew that NG spoke Mandarin, and I didn't speak Cantonese. I only spoke Mandarin, but I knew he spoke Mandarin. So when I got him on the phone, he started to hang up, and I switched to Mandarin, and he invited me over, and we spent the day together watching movies, talking movies. In fact, at one point, we were watching. He made a Bruce exploitation picture. I think it was called Watching Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And we were watching it in his screening room, and he was pointing out when it was the real Bruce Lee and when it wasn't. And he was looking at one, he says, "And that's the real Bruce Lee." And I said, "Oh, no, NG, that's not the real Bruce Lee." He says, "Oh, yes, it is. I made this movie. Yes, it is." I said, "It's not." And so he called the editor, Pan Xiong, and he said, "Pan Xiong, is that Bruce Lee?" He goes, "No, it's not Bruce Lee. Keith's right." So I think that really impressed him.
Bruce Lee, Bruce L.I.?
Yeah, Bruce L.I. or something. Exactly. No, it was the Korean guy, actually, that ended up being the Bruce Lee character in No Retreat, No Surrender. But I could tell from his movements that it wasn't Bruce Lee. And so that impressed him. And by the end of the day, he said, "Hey, if I ever make an American movie, if I ever do what you're thinking of doing, making an American movie with Hong Kong action, I'll call you." And then a year later, he called me and said, "Come to Hong Kong." I quit my job, flew to Hong Kong, spent a couple of months there writing the script. And then that was the start of it all. So I owe it really to the martial arts and to NG, who I'm still friends with. I was just in Hong Kong last month, and we had dinner talking about a new project. So it's been a great ride.
That's awesome. So what was the name of that project, the first one?
That was No Retreat, No Surrender. That was the
No
first
Retreat, No
movie. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's funny because I just got done watching Karate Kid, and there's literally a part in the new one where this is a conversation that happens where the young female protagonist is trying to buy something from an Asian store. I think it's a Chinese store, and the people are giving her like a hard time and aren't giving her a good price. And then the boy who's from China says it in Chinese. And so then the price changes, the vibe changes, the whole energy changes. So that's actually,
that's good.
Yeah. So that's real. Got it. And I'm sure Stephen, you've experienced some of that with some of the martial arts as well, right?
Yeah, it pretty much.
Yeah. people know you respect their culture, they tend to treat you better. Okay, so that's where everything kicks off. Tell us some more about No Retreat, No Surrender. Tell us some things that people don't know about No Retreat, No Surrender.
Well, I think the thing that most people don't know is that the original script was 180 pages long. And anybody that knows movies know that one page of a screenplay typically equals 1 minute of screen time. So I had written the first epic martial arts movie that was going to be 3 hours long. And as soon as NG saw my first draft, he's like, oh, no, this has got to change. Because it needed to be 85 pages, 88 pages, something like that. So it was the greatest film education possible because I was rewriting while we were shooting. So we'd go and we'd shoot and see what we'd shoot, and then I'd rewrite the next day's scene based on what I was learning. So I was able to cut down everything that was extraneous, and the movie ended up being, I think, 85 minutes long. So all that extra stuff that I thought was fantastic. I learned quite early on that you don't have to write anything about the fights. All I would write is they fight. But before, I was writing everything, that this guy did this and he does this, and it's not, nothing is the same. So
okay,
it was a great learning experience for me.
But when you write action, do you have it somewhere else where you got this all broken down how you want it to go, or is it still action? They fight and you will figure it out later.
It's all the fight coordinator that does it. Okay. So a good example is No Retreat, No Surrender 3, the movie one of the movies that we're screening at the Austin Action Fest. We were shooting a big fight scene in the garage for No Retreat, No Surrender. And I had written that, one of the characters, Lauren Avedon's character, is a very naive martial artist. And Keith Vitali's character is a CIA, FBI agent that's very used to this kind of thing. And so at one point, Keith kills one of the guys in the garage. And at the end of the scene, Lauren has this line of dialogue who says, wow, you killed him. And so I'm watching them set up the fight, and I see that the fight coordinator, Tony Leung, is having Lauren kill one of the fighters. And I stepped in, I said, in Chinese, I explained to Tony, I said, hey, you can't kill him. He's got this line of dialogue. He goes, oh, okay. I didn't read the script. So he didn't even read the script for No Retreat, No Surrender 3. He was just sort of given a general overview of what the fights are going to be, and then they set it up. So even if I had written out the whole fight scene, they never would have read it anyway, so it didn't matter.
Got it. Okay. Well, it's interesting hearing all this because I write a little bit as well as do, stunt coordination. Paul does the same thing. And so for me, I definitely read the script because sometimes it changes what the fight has to kind of be like. Or
exactly. I mean, that's a good example of it where he had to be sort of naive about the fighting. And I wish that they had read it. But in Hong Kong, actually, when they make movies, they have no script. And they don't even shoot with sound. They come in and they speak whatever language they're speaking, and they dub in whatever the story is later. So they're very used to shooting without a script, and so that's why they showed up and they hadn't read the script. So from that point on, I would sit down with the fight choreographer and tell them, "This is what we're doing in this scene. This is how it needs to go," and then they would adapt based on that.
So for that means there wasn't even like a previs. You were just
no, we didn't artists. Do previses.
They're just good. They can just. That is. I think I knew that, but I don't think I've ever thought about it, and that is wild because here that is not how people. There's no person who's going to go shoot one without a script unless it's a script meant. And two, most people want to see the previs. Most people have been hired by that. They want to see what we're going to do so for the timing and the blocking. And most Americans, I won't say most, many Americans cannot get through that fight scene without multiple rehearsals. So it's a safety issue where it sounds like we're dealing with the pros here. We're dealing with the guys.
Well, what would happen was we would cast the fighters very carefully, and then the fight choreographer would look at what they could do, and then they would design the fight around that. It was funny because we wasted a lot of time, honestly, in the first 3 movies. We wasted a lot of time teaching people on the set what the routine was going to be and teaching them how to react. And so Keith and I, we established an action filmmaking school that we did for, we must have done it for 12, 13 years to train fighters in reactions so that we wouldn't have to train them on the set. So we would end up hiring, I think we hired 150 people from this camp. We probably put 1,000 people through this camp. In fact, Scott Atkins, one of the guys that's out there, he came to our camp in Atlanta.
Okay.
So we hired a bunch of people from that. So we sped up the process. But that's the way we always did it, without a previs. And it caused some problems because I remember on No Retreat, No Surrender, we had this fight scene, and Yuen Kwei, Corey Yuen, who's a very famous director and fight choreographer, he was talking to an actor saying, we want you to do a left-hand kick here and a right-hand punch. And the actor said, well, I'm better with my left leg, but I'm better with my left arm. And Corey looked at me and said, okay. And so then he goes, I want you to do this spinning kick. And the guy goes, well, I'm really better spinning my other side. And Corey looked at me and he said a couple of expletives. And then he said to me, he walked off the set and he said, have this guy do the scene.
Ooh.
And he just walked off the set, and this actor's standing there, and I explained to him, I said, dude, you just really messed up. You should just do whatever he tells you to do, because it's the fight choreographer's goal to make the actor look as good as possible. Yeah. So trying to make any sort of change is a bad idea, especially when you're working with somebody like Corey.
Yeah, I have a question for you real quick. I was reading one of your interviews, and it had a whole bunch of different actors in it, in that interview that were in No Retreat, No Surrender. And I think it was Ron Ponell, I guess is his name.
Ponell, yes.
Yeah. And he didn't want to lose.
Yeah. On the morning of the final fight, Ron was the school owner, and so some of his fighters were fighting, and then he was going to fight Jean-Claude. And so he comes to me that morning. He says, Keith, I don't want to lose. And I looked at him. I said, what are you talking about, Ron? And he goes, I don't want to lose. I have a reputation. I said, Ron, you're playing a part. You're not playing you. You're playing this character. He goes, yeah, I still don't want to lose. So
Wow.
I was like, oh, man. And it was going nowhere. So I went to the director and I said, hey, can you do me a favor and make Jean-Claude cheat a little bit to beat him? And so if you watch the final fight, he takes the turnbuckle off the ring corner and puts it in Ron's face. And then that allowed him to lose. But it was really just a hilarious moment when he said he didn't want to lose.
It was a Vin Diesel Rock moment.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So how did he feel after that? That's what I didn't see. So it's like, did that put was that okay for him? Or
yeah, that was okay. He was like,
okay.
Now I have a reason that I lost, so I'm okay.
Okay. All right. I didn't see that piece of it. Okay.
But I think he was a local fighter, and so he'd won a couple of local championships.
Yeah.
So he thought he shouldn't lose, but very funny.
Yeah.
That is somewhat understandable. It's kind of one of the things we find that's interesting about. It's a little different, but not really. Actors especially, but people who are like aspiring stuntmen, and I say, you know what your job is, right? And like, what do you mean? Is like your job is to make the hero look good, to make the protagonist look good and strong, and win. So when you're the stunt guy, because everybody thinks that you're going to be the guy doing the cool stuff. They think you're going to be Scott Atkins. You tell someone you're a stunt guy who's not in the industry. It's like, no. It's the three guys that got beat up by Scott Atkins who flipped into the wall. That's what the stunt guy's doing.
That's
interesting.
That's funny because we had a master come and audition for us, and he brought his Yuki, his partner, with him. And he was throwing this guy around and punching him and kicking him, and he's looking super cool. And this guy's flying everywhere. And then at the end of it, we were like, we don't want you. We want your Yuki, because he's the guy that can do the reactions. And this guy was very upset because he was like grandmaster, whatever. And we chose his student. But, that's the truth. We got one star and one bad guy. And then you've got dozens of guys that all they got to do is get hit and look good.
Yeah, and exactly. It's just like, it's like Steven Seagal. He was barely getting touched in the first couple. I think he got touched in some movie. I'm sorry, it's a cat over here making noise.
He needed to get touched more, is what Steven Seagal
Yeah.
needed.
Oh,
hit a little bit.
I was trying to not. I was trying to not do it. No, but I think it was like one movie he was fighting somebody and they got a few shots off on him, and I was like, oh, this is different. Was it Michael Jai White? It might have been Michael Jai White or something like that. I think it's the movie with Morris Chestnut where he actually has to fight a guy and he actually has to, he's in some danger there, as opposed to every other movie that looks like a judo Aikido demo where he's just.
That's right. He just does his arm bar and his wrist locks and stands up straight and looks
people
good.
flying everywhere. I'm so tempted. We're not going to do this because I know you know things. I'm going to leave that alone. So
we can do that in Austin. How about that?
Yeah,
We'll do that in Austin.
We're not being recorded. We love everybody. Everybody's great.
At the Austin Action Fest.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, coming back to that, one of the scenes, I'm in one of the scenes in No Retreat, No Surrender. I'm one of the thugs outside the bar, and I'm as bad as these other guys. I didn't tell them I didn't want to lose, but I did turn the wrong way. So Keith does this spinning. Kurt does this spinning hook kick, and he comes across my face this way, and I turn the other way. And you got to look close to see it. But for the rest of my career, all the stunt guys would look at me and they go, "Oh, Keith! Oh, look at you!" So I never lived that down, turning the wrong way. Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, I can't. We've all had our moments.
Yeah.
I've definitely had a couple on set where I was like, "Ooh, that was a mistake." Luckily, nobody caught it. The one I can remember the most vividly. And it's so funny because you do all this crazy stuff, and then you make a mistake like that, like something small, but
Yeah, that's right.
Get thrown over tables, all this other wild stuff, and then somebody hits me, and I have a nice shirt on, and I'm helping these guys with this film. I'm not getting paid for it. It's like a student film, but I got this nice shirt on. It's like my going out shirt, and the bad guy, I did the fight choreography. He hits me with a push kick, boom, and I go to fall, and I'm supposed to land on my back. But because I know we have to, my mind goes, you've got to do another take. Don't get your shirt dirty. So, like a moron, I put the hands back. And this is a big boy. I'm about, right up at that time, I probably would have been 195. This dude was a fighter. He was actually an instructor. He had to be like 210, 220. He was bigger than me. And he hit me with a real kick. It was safe, but it was a real shove. And man, when I say my wrists, I hit that ground, and I was like, yep, because I couldn't feel it. That is a mistake. This is going to go bad. I was like, I can tell it's coming. And 3 seconds later, it hits, but I'm the stunt coordinator.
Oh.
Right? This is earlier on in my career, so I'm also the stunt coordinator, so I can't let them know.
Right, that you're hurt.
Yep, I had to just take a moment and breathe and just pretend, oh no, guys, I'm just thinking through the next sequence. Got up and finished the scene. But it's normally the little small things like that you don't think about. And everybody makes those mistakes. Everybody gets jammed up a little bit. So we talked about No Retreat, No Surrender 1. Is there anything else that happened in that film that people just don't know, that we couldn't tell because the editing was so good or it all came together so well? Because that really started everything. So was there anything else behind the scenes that we didn't see?
Well, because it was the only American film that had been done with Hong Kong choreography, it was a challenge teaching everybody the right way to do things. A lot of martial artists, they don't want to throw big sweeping punches and they don't want to throw swinging kicks like that. They'd say, oh, this is the way we do it, straight punches or straight kicks. And so we had to get them out of what they would normally do and throw more pretty kicks. Van Damme's, his kicks were beautiful, no problem with that.
Yeah.
But it was the martial artists that wanted to do things the way their martial arts training had been done. They weren't action fighters at all. But Van Damme had a problem because he thought he needed to be closer than he needed to be. So, we tried to explain to him that the camera or the person you're hitting is going to hide the point of contact so you don't have to be close. But he hit a bunch of people on our movie. He hit Tim Baker, the guy that played the father, very hard. In fact, I think Tim testified against him in the Cyborg case where he blinded a guy just to establish that he didn't have any control. And then he didn't knock Pete Cunningham, but he knocked him down, hit him real hard. And he had to do it twice because he stopped. He broke character. Like he hit Pete. Pete fell. He went, oh my gosh, and ran to him, and we're like, no. So he had to do it again, and he hit him again the second time. So that was an issue because you gotta teach people that you don't have to be close. I mean, there are times when you do, and we would put padding in the cheek, or we'd use a stunt foot or something like that. But in general, you don't have to be close as long as the camera's in the right place. Nobody can really tell. But that was a lesson that we had to teach a lot of people during that movie.
Wow. Yeah, I know. Normally for actors, I think I'm the most terrified of an enthusiastic actor who's never done any real fight training, but they're like a dude probably, so they're pretty confident. I can throw a punch, and they snap that thing off at 90% speed, and it's right here. And I'm like, hey man, let me tell you how this doesn't
Don't have to
work.
be that close.
Yeah, I've taken a couple pops from stunt people, or not from stunt people, from actors. Normally, the stunt guys are always good. The stunt guys all know that it's about safety, and the actors are trying to be real. But a lot of the things you're talking about, we've seen here. We've been dealing with a lot of martial artists. But the cool thing about martial artists is that they are precise. So you're just teaching them where to strike, and they typically know not to touch their partner. They've been shadow boxing, they've been going light, so they know that kind of stuff pretty well. So that's pretty cool. Paul, do you have any experience where your actors got a little bit too excited?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've got so many stories about when the actors are just man, it's usually they're like, they have some martial art training as well, right? It's usually like if they're like, oh yeah, I train boxing or I train kickboxing and stuff, and okay, we're gonna do this choreography, and all right, so you're gonna be throwing this punch, and this is, oh yeah, I know how to throw it, I know how to do this, okay, and then like it gets to the point and they're moving and they're stepping in like they're gonna hit them, and I'm like, whoa, stop, guys, like you're about to hit him. I was like, this isn't real life. And I was like, you need to keep like distant. And I explained, like, oh, I know. And like, do you know? Because you almost took my guy out. And so, I mean, I get plenty of times like that where, that's the way it is. Like they've got some training or something else. I did this. And then usually it's an ego thing that's involved with it. And they don't want to listen. And then people get hurt. If I have like an actor that's green and like is humble, usually there's not any issues, right? They're willing to learn, they're willing to listen, and it's cool because you're the first person that's gonna like have that influence over them. So most of the time, if they're a very green actor, at least when it comes to doing this stuff, it's usually okay in my experience. But if they say they've got some training, oh yeah, I did this training, I trained Muay Thai, I trained MMA with this person, and then now we got an accident. So
I think you make a very good point about ego, because the guys that are the worst to work with are the guys you're talking about, the guys that sort of want to make their mark. When we hire the champions, like Keith Vitali, one of the top 10 fighters in the world, he's got nothing to prove. He's happy to learn, he's happy to do. It's the guys that aren't the champions that say, I got to make my mark, I got to look good. We've hired Billy Blanks, we've hired Keith Cook, we've hired Joe Hess, heavyweight champion of the world. None of them had egos. They were the easiest guys in the world to work with. The guys that are the challenge are those guys that have a little bit of training, think they're better than they are, and think they have to outshine the champion. Yeah. And, they never will. But so that's a very good point.
Is that a star complex? I want to be a star.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody.
They want to be the star. And we've had that with a couple of people in the movies where there always comes a point in a movie, and you guys have seen this, where the lead actor or one of the critical actors knows we can't finish the movie without him. It's about 3 weeks into the picture, they wake up one morning and they go, oh, if they replace me now, they'd have to reshoot all that stuff. So now I can be the guy that I really am, which is a prick. And I can demand certain things. and it's the hardest thing for a producer like me to deal with, because they're right. We can't change them out.
Yeah.
We can't say, okay, we're gonna reshoot everything we shot.
Oh man, I'm trying to think I've ever been in a scenario where someone's trying to pull that, and I don't think here in Texas I've seen it yet. I've seen it like a short film, but not like a full feature, where someone's done that. Which, thank God that hasn't happened. I've worked with mostly good people, and I have a pretty much a general no a-hole rule on my sets. Seriously, and like we're working on a project right now, and I tell people, because it's a fantasy project, it'll have a lot of Hong Kong style martial arts and action in it, but it's a fantasy movie, and my rule is if you're not fired up about what we're doing and you're just here to collect a paycheck, I don't really want you here, because there's somebody else that this project we're working on is their dream project. They pay money to be in this thing. And you're getting paid to be here and not be excited about it and try to, like, we're supposed to be making the same movie. So we generally have a rule about that. Like, if you're not going to be fired up about it, if this isn't going to really, really get you going, just don't come, man. Just let somebody else take that job. Because the moment we hear any of that crazy stuff, like, we got to get you out of here. Because you know what? I'm totally lying. I wasn't a feature film. It wasn't an actor. It was a coordinator. Okay. And the coordinator knew that we needed him and his guys. And so he tried to shut the production down until he got what he wanted from the director. Yeah. And I was like,
Well, I think you're fortunate in Texas because there isn't that much production going on. We use some crews from LA, and those guys, they're there for the paycheck, as you said. They'll put in their hours, and they don't want to do much overtime, and they don't want to, it's not their dream project. Whereas we filmed in North Carolina, which was quite a bit different. We filmed in Pennsylvania, and these guys, they'd worked on only a couple of movies, so this was important for their careers. So they were willing to do anything. So it's a difference, when we went big budget with Blood Moon, for example, we were hiring Teamsters and we were hiring guys from the union that it's just a paycheck to them, so they didn't really care. And I prefer to work with the smaller crews, with guys this is a big opportunity for them, and they're willing to give their all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So talk a little bit about Blood Moon, because you've done a bunch of movies. Some people know very well or remember very well, and some people may not remember that much. Talk about some of the ones that are like Blood Moon, some of the other ones that might be your favorites, that don't get as much attention when we do these interviews.
Well, I think that one of my favorites of the movies that I made was called American Shaolin. It was about a kid that goes to China and joins the Shaolin Temple. And it was always a dream of mine to go to the Shaolin Temple and train there. And I was able to realize that 5 years ago. NG knows the abbot of a Shaolin Temple, so he got me in, and I was training with the monks, and I got to go into that chamber, which is closed off now, that has the footprints in the chamber from where all the guys trained. I was able to go in there and put my feet in those footprints. But that was one of my favorites, American Shaolin, because it was kind of my dream to do that. So I lived vicariously through this guy, and I was even willing to shave my head. I didn't have to. But we had Daniel Day Kim, for example, who's a big actor now, being on Lost and Hawaii Five-0. But he was one of the monks in there, and it was a great production. We were in China for 90 days. Crazy picture, but I loved working on it, and I loved the result of it.
Actually, I think there's a tournament or something going on right now, because I know a friend of mine, Wing Chun instructor, Sifu Sampson, out of Atlanta, actually, out of Savannah, right? Savannah. He's out of Savannah. He's overseas right now doing some tournament. So,
okay.
No, that's really, really awesome. On that note, just Stephen, I know you Stephen and Paul kind of played themselves down a little bit, which is fun. But Stephen, can you tell us a little bit more about what you and Ming House are really doing to preserve the martial arts, not just Wing Chun. Just talk a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Not to sound insulting or, it's kind of hard to say, but a lot of the martial arts and the way that people push it out kind of a little boring. So for people to get excited, you got to have a little bit more of a punch. So we like to work with groups, or help promote groups, push groups like Martial Club or Dragon Lords, because they make Kung Fu fun. A lot of people, they take it very seriously. Not that the art is not serious. It's supposed to be very serious. It's got a lot of discipline, and you're doing a lot of hard work. But coming from an outsider, it's not something, you work your regular day job and you got your life going. So you just want something to kind of like unwind, like relax, so
Something fun.
Something fun that wouldn't say mindless, but because you're putting a lot of time and effort into the system, into the art, but it's got to be fun. It's just, you have to.
That makes sense. And I think a lot of us got involved in the martial arts because we saw it on TV. My dad was a Bruce Lee fanatic. And so I always had like an interest in Jeet Kune Do because of that. There was an interest in Wing Chun, etc. But really, my thing was like, I don't know when I saw this, but Manus Kung Fu. I was Capwood and Manus Kung Fu were like always the most interesting things I had to see. The American stuff didn't really jazz me up, which is why things like No Retreat, No Surrender in American Shaolin, Blood Moon, all these different things. I'm a big Gary Daniels fan as well. Billy Blanks fan as well.
Okay.
Yeah, these are some of my favorites. They weren't getting the shine. Some people didn't know. They didn't know what they were looking at, just to put it that way. I love watching that action because like American stuff up to that point didn't really get me going. There was Bruce, and then I was on Jet Li's and all that kind of stuff. Donnie Yen, Michelle Yeoh.
Sure.
So the stuff you did is that's the kind of stuff that I wanted to do. That's what really, really got me wanting to be in martial arts. That and video games. I got an Akuma, who's what's called a Shota clone, because everything was a version of Ryu and Shotokan karate basically back then. But that's the stuff that got me in because it looked like fun. And then when I got in, I appreciated the hard work. But I didn't like get in because I was some kid seeking honor or something. I just wasn't that guy. I was like, that looks like cool. I want to do kicks and flip. And then once I got into it, there was a passion. And then there were people. There's people that I'm friends with today that I met back when I was in high school, and we used to spar because everybody would spar. And so I have friends that are like 41 years old. I have friends I met when I was 17 years old because they were at another school and we would spar. And now those are some of my best friends. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, there's a real community to martial arts, that's for sure.
And fun fact,
That wasn't a world. I was just going to say, that wasn't a world for me. I didn't have the funds to be able to do those types of things. So I would wake up every morning, every weekend morning, and just pretty much I had martial arts all day. So I was a gymnast and a twirler and a ballerina. And so I'm like, this is my release thing that I can do and watch, and I want to be. And so in No Retreat, No Surrender, you have a portion of it where he's learning from Bruce Lee, right?
Right.
And I didn't talk to Bruce Lee, but he was in my head a lot. And in my gymnastics and stuff like that, I would channel kind of that type of, a lot of his mimicking and stuff like that, the fun types of things he would do for his acting, because I thought there's something about it's just smooth. And I love that. And I would watch Sugar Ray Leonard. To me, Sugar Ray Leonard took some things from Bruce Lee, and people don't really talk about that. So, so I was big into boxing a whole lot, and football and stuff like that.
That's my regret that I wasn't able to meet Bruce Lee because he died in '73.
Yeah.
I met everybody else, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Chuck Norris, all those guys. I've been fortunate enough to meet them, but to not have ever had a chance to meet Bruce Lee. But Corey was a stuntman on a number of the Bruce Lee films, so I got to talk to Corey about Bruce. And so it was nice to have that tangential relationship with Bruce, but it would have been great to meet him directly.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned a couple of projects. What are some other ones that we we don't get to talk about as much as you want to show some love to, that we should really, if people haven't seen your whole, maybe they've seen No Retreat, 1, 2, 3, and Blood Moon. What's something else they should be looking for?
Well, I think King of the Kickboxers has some of the best action that we've done. Very intricate, and we had Keith Cook was in King of the Kickboxers, Lauren Avedon, Billy Blanks. So that's one of the ones that people should watch. And also, you mentioned Blood Moon, but Superfights as well. Keith Vitali's in Superfights, and we had Ram Van Dam, the professional wrestler, in there.
Yeah.
And we had a number of guys in Superfights that were just great fighters, like Cliff Linderman, who's a Jeet Kune Do guy and a Kali guy. So we had a lot of great marks. Chuck Jeffries is in Blood Moon and in Superfights. So that's a great picture for people to see as well.
So you got to use a lot of people cross over into your other projects, which is cool because it means you're still friends with it. Well, first and foremost, I don't know if people know this, you're still friends with the first person you made a movie with, your first movie.
That's right. Yeah.
That's impressive. That does not always go that way.
That's true.
Be a stressful time on a friendship. And then you stayed in contact with people that you work with, and you got to use them a bunch of times, which is awesome. We think that this is a community. Filmmaking, we call it Film Fam. And if I can use someone multiple times and we have that relationship and I trust you, that's really the way people tend to want to do it. Who wants to have a brand new crew every single time? You don't know if you can trust these people. Obviously, you're going to have people here and there, but being able to have a core group that, hey, man, if I need XYZ, I can call these people and they're going to deliver. I think that's a really big deal.
The trust is so important, and one of the things that I always tried to do was I tried to overpay people when I had the budget to do so. Mm-hmm. So somebody might come in and say, "Oh, my weekly rate is $3,000." I'll say, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you $3,500 a week, but the next project I might not have the same budget, and so I want you to work." And so those guys they'd agree, and so we do a lower budget picture, and they'd still be there. So trust is so important, to know that you can count on somebody.
Yeah. So I know you're in Sweden now. I'm assuming you're not making
Switzerland.
a trip. Switzerland. I'm assuming you're not making a trip to move to America anytime soon. But there is a lot of energy moving from LA to Texas. Have you seen anything about that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I hadn't thought about that. I was just with Keith Vitali last week in Atlanta, and he was telling me about all the production that's happening in Atlanta. But it's great to hear that things are happening in Texas too, because right now LA has just become so overpriced. You don't get the tax breaks that filmmakers need. So I'd love to, I'm working on a couple of projects, and I'd love to come back to shoot in the U.S. I don't know that I'm going to be moving back there anytime soon, but I'd love to come back and shoot there for sure. They just finished making a movie in Germany from a script of mine called Lion Fist. So that was, it's getting back into it after, I was out of that for 15 years, out of the production business for 15 years. So come back into it was real pleasant. Yeah, I did, very much so. I took my wife and my youngest son, because my two older boys, they've been on pretty much every set. They've been in all the movies. They got to go to them all. But my youngest son, who's 16 now, Jake, he had never been to the set of a film. So we were able to go to the set for a day to show him what was going on. So that was fun.
It's interesting because I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you if your family's involved in any of the productions.
Yeah, the boys were, and they came to all the stunt camps, so they learned everything, and they ended up being in all the movies.
That's cool.
Cool.
So on the behind the scenes, so not production, was there anything interesting happening with, like, since y'all were doing new things that weren't really happening, Asian style, but American movies, etc. Was there any like distribution or sales conversations that were interesting that we don't know about? Like any difficulties on that side?
Well, it was interesting because our basis was to make pretty grounded martial arts movies. Like, in No Retreat, No Surrender 3, there are a couple of cable pulls that are obvious that they're cable pulls. And I tried to fight against those because I wanted it to be very reality based. And I remember, we were trying to break through. No Retreat, No Surrender certainly broke through and got a big audience. But then the other movies, we were trying to make that break. And people would say, oh, people weren't buying it. There's, it's real movies or real action. And then I remember watching Hidden Tiger. No, what was it? Something Tiger.
Crouching
Hidden
Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Crouching Tiger. Yeah.
Crouching Tiger, and they're flying across the screen.
Yeah.
And what the hell? They can fly across the screen, and people accept that, and they won't accept, just a simple pullback or something like that. So that was just, I was livid when I saw Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and all the shit they did in there. And, we couldn't get away with anything, which was
that kind of cinematic artistry type of thing. That's the thing with
they go like this and they fly across the thing.
Exactly.
They try to do that, and it never happens.
No, that is,
I remember that. That got Academy Award or something, I think, too.
It did, not for Best Picture, but it was something else.
Soundtrack.
Cinematography or something.
I think it was Yo-Yo Ma soundtrack. It was one that happens to be one of my favorite movies. But yeah, I remember because it's the best.
I like that movie, but I hated it at the same time.
Me too. That's exactly okay.
It's the best. It's probably the best of its kind. Because they tried to follow that up with like Hero and some other like House of Flying Daggers, and it didn't really connect the same way. I think that movie is the best version of what is the word? The Wuxia movies where like a Jet Li's Tai Chi Master Part 8, he's flying all over the place and it's sped up. Those movies were fun. But I think Crouching Tiger did it in the most elegant version of that people had seen.
I think that's true. Although I did like Hero. Jet Li's Hero was beautifully shot.
It was beautiful. The color, everything was beautiful. It was similar, but I don't think it connected as well as Crouching Tiger did.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Yeah, and they waited way too long on Crouching Tiger too, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm a Donnie Yen fan. Like Donnie Yen was like the guy because a lot of guys were smaller. And then I remember him in the Wing Chun movie with Michelle Yeoh, the origin of it. And I remember there's a part where there's like 7 pillars, and he kicks them all without his foot touches. Like kick, 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 kick. And I was like, this is the guy. Plus, he looks like a model, and then he's like jacked.
Right.
So like I believe he could do everything that he did. Because I'm like, this just off normal. This guy probably put hands on you. So he was always one of my favorite guys. There was something I was going to ask you, and I totally lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry, it's probably my fault.
No, it's Donnie Yen's fault. He got me.
Blame Donnie Yen. That's right.
Yeah, blame Donnie. So you
were talking distribution.
Yeah, distribution. But there was something we were going to get into. You were talking about what you were doing with the actual stunt camps. So was it that you just didn't have enough body, so you had to do those camps to get enough people to be able to make the movies you wanted to make?
Right, because I was frustrated in having to teach those people on the set how much time it took to teach people how to do the correct reaction or to throw the kick the way we wanted to. So we started those camps to train people so that I could call them up and say, hey, Ted, come on. I need you for this. I need you to be a thug in this scene. So that's why we trained them, and it was really fun. We did it in the summers in upstate New York, and it was a great time. And we had a scene in Superfights where we hired this girl that had come to the camp, and she had been there, but she was like one of the producer's girlfriend or something, and so we thought she knew what she was doing. It turns out she didn't pay attention when she was at the camp, and so she's in the ring with Kelly Gallant, who's in Superfights. And Kelly, in fact, at one point stops and goes, "What is the matter with you? You came to the camps." But she didn't pay attention. She was just there as eye candy. So, in general, we used all the guys and girls that came to our camps because they knew what to do.
Interesting. So that's kind of, it's funny we bring that up because we've always had the interest in doing something like that here, and we just waited. And actually, you're part of the reason that we're doing something like that in 2025. Originally, we were going to wait to do it, but then when we realized that the Keith W was going to be with us, I was like, we can't pass this chance up. So we're really excited to be doing our own stunt intensive. It'll be a new thing we're bringing to Austin. We don't have a lot of other options here, and we find ourselves in a very similar situation where If I needed a scene where I could do 5 or 10 fighters, sure, I can do that, probably just for my own groups. If I needed 10 to 15, it might start to get tight and the talent might start to be a little less. But if I needed 20, 30, if I wanted to do an Ong Bak and I didn't want to recycle people with different clothing,
Right.
it would be almost impossible to do in Austin unless I went to go source people who weren't like martial artists. I'd have to go to dojos and pick people up and Queens to pick up people to be able to be in the movie and do the job I would want them to do. So we're kind of in the same scenario where we're saying, in Texas, there's, Taylor Sheridan, he's doing a bunch of stuff. He's going to need bodies for all those movies. He's going to need shooters, fighters, kick fall. He needs the whole deal. So our intention is to train up the people here and to give us in Austin, in the Central Texas area, a place where you can go once a year, at least once a year, and really get an intense level of instruction on the basics, set etiquette, how to really perform at a higher level. Some of these people coming in are going to be individuals who've never done, even stage combat, let alone real stunts. So the idea is to give them a really strong base and foundation that they can then take, go take some training somewhere else. But you got this, which can get you going, make you qualified to at least be on a set, not hurt anybody, not get yourself hurt, do a decent job, look good on camera, essentially not be terrible. Because who wants to be in a movie, get called up for a role, you're not ready, right? That never feels good. Then you got to watch it in a theater and you're terrible. Nobody wants to be in that situation. Nobody wants to be in a lawsuit because you're blinding a guy.
Right.
So
I think it's smart to do that. And the seminar that Keith Vitali and I are running to open up that seminar day is about, as you just said, correct etiquette, how to break into film, how to have the right attitude. And, Keith is a really good example of that, because whenever anybody would say to him, "Can you do this?" he'd say, "I could do anything." I'll do anything. So, and that got him into trouble, actually, because before No Retreat, No Surrender 3, he was working with a fight choreographer, and he and Lauren were doing things in the bag, showing what they could do, showing what they were best at, right? So they could do the choreography. And then right before they left, Lauren jumped up and hit the bag with 2 kicks. Did 1 kick and then a second kick. And they looked at Keith and they said, "Can you do that?" And he goes, "I can do anything." So he goes and he does it, but he lands wrong and breaks his wrist. And this is like 2 days before we start shooting.
No.
So he broke his wrist. He was going to have a cast on his wrist. So I had to rewrite the opening scene so that he gets shot in his wrist. So he has a reason
I knew that was coming.
His cast.
Keith Devian is the master of the pivot. I was like, he's going to write this in. This is going to be a thing.
We had to, because Keith was looking at me like, "Oh my God, you're not going to replace me, are you?" And I was like, I don't think so. Let me talk to NG. And so we sat down and we designed this, and it was perfect. And even when he was already healed, like 4 weeks in, he was healed, but he still had to wear the cast even though he was healed. That was funny.
We have consistency.
It made me think of China O'Brien, number 3, I think. And there's a guy, he looks like Native American. I forget his name, but he's one of my favorite parts of that movie. He's kicking the crap out of people. But he's got
Keith Cook, because Keith Cook was in China O'Brien.
He's got the weight on his wrist. It's like a spike. Okay. I don't know, some big weight, so he's not really punching that much, but he's doing some amazing. I'm gonna have to look that up. But that guy, I thought you were gonna do something like that, like you're gonna make it like an armor piece or some whatever. No, you just went with a cast. Okay, I mean that works too. No, that's awesome.
Now, I think you're talking about Keith Cook, but see, he was in King of the Kickboxers, and he was also in Lion Fist, the new movie. So I got to see him again after like 40 years. So I think you're thinking of Keith Cook. He either goes by Keith Hirabayashi or Keith Hirabayashi Cook.
That is awesome. Oh, this is way off topic. Do you know about Street Fighter? Are you ever?
I know that it's coming out, and I've seen some possible casting choices, but I don't know if they're real.
Did you have of the ones that you saw, did you have any thoughts?
Well, I saw that Jason Momoa was supposed to be one of the fighters, and I thought that's a problem.
It's supposed to be Blanca.
'Cause-
It's supposed to be Blanca.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. I mean, we've used some bigger. We've used some actors who weren't fighters, and it's really hard. I mean, you got to double them a lot of times. I mean, with Billy Blanks, we even had to double Billy Blanks for something.
Really?
We took Billy Blanks is 6 foot. I think he's 6'2" or something, and he had to do a spin like the Hong Kong spins in the air. Where you get hit and you spin like this, and very few Americans could do that. And Billy's a fantastic athlete, but he couldn't do it. So we took a 5'5" Chinese guy and painted him black and had him do the spin.
No.
And that's just one example. I mean, we probably couldn't get away with that in today's world. But it's so quick, you can't tell.
Keith,
But
you're going to get a whole podcast cancer for that.
I'm just picturing him being painted and if he's asking
man.
questions as we go.
Oh, that's good.
It works. I mean,
Oh,
That's-
my
but,
goodness.
Mother of all invention.
Yeah.
when you use just an actor who's not a fighter, it could be a real catastrophe.
That's true. And I mean, yeah, and a lot of times, I tend to work on a lot of independent projects. So a lot of times we don't have time for a double. So you got to be able to move, and I tell my directors and casting people, like, man, just get somebody who can actually fight, like, make that part of your audition process. And you can never take the actor's word for it, because I've had so many. I will say no. I'm saying no names. We had an audition, and I asked somebody. It's actually how I met a friend of mine named James Drake. We had an audition for like a ninja zombie movie, and people wanted to play these people. And I'm like, look, we don't have time to train anybody. It's like, no budget, okay? You have to be able to throw some hands. And a woman comes in and she wants to do a role. And she's, I'm a black belt in, I don't know if it was Taekwondo or karate. And I'm like, cool, show me something. At the audition, I'm like, show me. And she takes off her shoes and she does some stuff. And all I will say is she may have had a black belt that she got from Beals or Macy's. But what that woman was not was a black belt in martial arts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I had cast you and then we got into some complicated stuff, we would have been in a whole scenario. So, yeah, it's very
Well,
important.
I think actors are taught to put skills on their resume that they don't have,
Yeah.
so that when they get cast, there'll be no choice but to teach those, like horseback riding, motorcycle riding. They put that on their resume but you always have to see it. We were doing a casting for Blood Moon, and we had this stripper scene, and so we had to see the girl strip.
You had to.
So we had to, and it's so awkward. I mean, it's really so awkward to do this, and we always had to have a woman in there with us on the casting table, because anybody comes back and says, "Oh, they did this or did that."
Yeah.
So this girl comes in and she goes, "Before I do anything, I just want you to know they'll be fixed." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "They'll be fixed. I had breast surgery, and what happened was it was just one big ball. And it was going to be fixed by the time we shot." But that's a really good example of, you got to see any skill. If you have somebody juggle, you got to see that they can juggle. If you have a fighter, so many actors say, "Yeah, I'm a champion." You go, "Okay, show me something." They go, "Oh, my pants are really tight," or "Oh, my leg is hurt. I can't do anything." And when we were casting when I picked Jean-Claude out of a line of actors that were waiting to get in, he only had to do 3 or 4 kicks, and they were like, "Okay, we see."
Yeah.
Billy Blanks comes in, he throws 2 kicks, and you're like, "Yeah, no problem." Keith Cook, same thing. Keith Vitali, oh, no problem. It's the guys that say they can do it and then they can't. I mean, right away when you see somebody move, if they're a martial artist or not.
If you can at least play one on TV, Which is why I have an issue with a lot of movies that pop up now. I'm like, I know that this person is moving. They don't even move right for this. This is.
Right.
I have a lot of feelings about a lot of things. Street Fighter chief among them. I'm very angry because they're casting that in a very interesting way. You know that guy, the polka dot guy, Dimitri, I forget his name, Damuch or something, whatever. He's the polka dot guy from Suicide Squad.
Okay.
The nerdy looking dude. They have him cast as M. Bison. M. Bison is a jacked villain who will punch you in the face or hit you with the magic psycho hands. And I'm like, why do you guys keep picking these nerdy looking, Raul Julia looking guys? Which no, don't speak of the dead, but like, that's not Bison. Bison is an imposing figure who will fight you.
Right.
And I watch these movies and they just don't seem to care. But as far as
Is that the casting? Do they know? Are they aware of? Well, maybe they don't understand their audience.
No, they don't understand the audience. You can tell by the people that they are casting. But
they might bulk them up though.
No matter. He looks wrong. He doesn't look right.
He's
His
small.
eyes are shaped wrong.
small.
Okay, his eyes don't have the right thing, and his teeth don't do the right smile. He's not
Not
Bison.
big. He's not big enough either.
He's not big enough.
He
And so
needs to be way bigger, way imposing, super
Yes.
tall.
I'm still stuck on the round boob right now. I'm just.
the uniboob.
There.
So I was gonna get back to the uniboob. So the thing is that's interesting is that as stunt guys, I always tell people never to do the opposite, because anything you put on your resume, you tell someone you're going to be able to, you can do, they're going to want you to do it in an adverse condition, and you're going to have to do it 20 times. So if you can barely do a backflip, I don't suggest that you promote yourself as a guy that can do a backflip, because they're going to expect you to do that backflip in armor, in a robe, in combat boots, 25 times, because the camera wasn't focused right. They need multiple angles. So if you get out there and you say you can do it, and you can't, either you're endangering yourself or you're holding up productions. So for me, I am very, very clear to any client on what I can and cannot do. And if it's something that might be just outside of the scope, I'm like, schedule, budget permitting, like if you give me 2 months, I can get that to you. Or if you have enough money, we can make that happen. So that is what I would recommend. How would you say that a stunt person should maybe ignore that advice that you've heard?
No. I think stunt people, and I tell even actors, be honest on your resume. If a stunt guy says he can do a fire burn, for example, I mean that's a life or death thing. And if somebody says they can do a fire burn and they've never done one, I mean we had a guy on. I think it was on Blood Moon, that said he wanted to try a fire burn. I said, hey, a big budget picture is not when you want to try a fire burn. You want to get some training and do it in a controlled environment and not do it on the set of a picture that's counting on you to be able to do this fire burn. So, you always want to be honest with what you can and cannot do and don't overstate. But, unfortunately, a lot of beginners, they want to overstate because they want to get the job. But you also want to live to see another day too.
Well, we've seen that with the Weinstein case and the P. Diddy case, the potential cost of doing anything and everything to get a job. So
that's right. Yeah,
doesn't typically tend to work out too well.
So you're an inspirer, an encourager, an educator for the next generation of creatives. What is it within your environment that they're hungry for, and what is it that they also do not or haven't quite yet grasped that they're going to be heading out into that you get to instill in them?
Well, I think it comes back to what Ben said earlier about having passion. I think that you got to do what you're passionate about. And I think we're coming into kind of a dangerous time with AI and the ability to make AI films and create AI characters. One of the challenges, I think, with AI, and it's still not in a place where it can do new things. It's still just regurgitating what's already been done. And so there's still an opportunity for filmmakers to do things that have never been done. Similar to what we did with No Retreat, No Surrender, we combined Hong Kong and American with an American story and American actors. I think that's what we got to look for is projects and things that have never been done before. The retreads and the same old is going to be over because AI is going to be able to do the same old. You gotta find something that's never been done before, and be passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's
AI is a thing. Yeah.
It's getting way too good. I've seen the gorilla videos and the Bigfoot videos, and I'm like, it's getting really hard to honestly discern the real from the fake. And I'm like, if they can do that, one, that's very scary for like actual regular reasons, but from a movie perspective, if they can get you to sign that contract and they get that we can use your face and likeness in perpetuity, and you combine that with some Weta AI and some 3D.
If you can sign that Uniboob, for the next 20 years, the things that you can do.
Lots of different. You'll have lots of different looks of boobs.
Man, I know.
No, so we're getting to our time here, wrapping up. But is there anything else, Keith, that we missed today that you really want to make sure that?
I'm just looking forward to screening the movies in the Oxygen Action Fest, and also doing these seminars. So I think you're offering a great opportunity to people to learn how to break into the business, and in a very community oriented way. It's something that's going to be very welcoming. There's not a stupid question other than the one that you don't ask. So, we're going to be very open, and we want a lot of people to come and just enjoy and a lot of it's about networking. As soon as you get in with a group of people, they're making a picture, you can get in and get started. So I'm looking forward to building that community with you guys.
Absolutely. And just, for our audience out there, this August 8th, 9th, and 10th, the Austin Action Fest and Market, we're building the market side. Some things people just need to know about our festival is, when our festival ends, when you submit it to the competition, when we talk to sales agents and distribution companies after the event, when they ask me for projects, I'm feeding them your projects. I proactively ask them if they're looking for things when I make new connections. And if they say they're looking for X, Y, Z, I go back 2-3 years into the catalog and send them the projects that they might enjoy. And I send them your contact information.
Very nice.
That's not a thing that I'm even charging for. We're just trying to develop the market side, because we say in the world of show business, if we cannot do business, there will be no show. So we really are trying to proactively put people on and train them up in the way they should go from a business perspective, so that they can be successful, because our job is to help people feed their families with their art. We don't want you working at Jason's Deli and shooting movies on the weekends. If you could make contribute to the community with your art and make something worthwhile and good that is not a set 9th or 10th sequel in a series, you can bring us something original. We would love that. And just so people kind of understand the format, Friday we'll be doing the kickoff ceremony, red carpet, show up, dress up, because there will be a competition. Erica will be judging people on their fits on Friday. We're doing a fashion thing. Red carpet, photos. You can actually come out and watch No Retreat, No Surrender #1 and #3 on that day. Keith and Keith are going to do some talking, do some autograph signings and whatnot of some posters. So come out and support. We'll be at the Galaxy Highland Theater, 6700 Middle Fiskville Road. You know where it's at. It's near where the Highland Mall used to be. So we're going to be out. You can get tickets specifically to the screening or the whole weekend. It's your call. We'll have a couple other movies playing as well. Some other fun ones like Ninja Killface, which I think our friend Hollis did. It'll be a lot of fun. But a couple of movies, and then the plan is to go over to the Zero Latency. It's VR gaming, axe throwing. They got ice cream. They got ninja stars. I think you could throw batarangs. You can throw pretty much any bladed weapon you've seen in a movie. They probably have it. So that's Friday. We take the break, get your rest, because Saturday is all screenings and panels. It's going to be a bunch of things. We have the Finding Solace premiere happening at 7 p.m., but it's a bunch of screenings, panels. Janelle Vela-Smith, she's a distributor, Tukong Musul instructor, as well as a stunt coordinator. She's a big deal here in the local area, and so she's offered distribution to one of our potential lucky winners. So she'll be there talking. Keith, hopefully Keith and Keith will hang out with us that day, and I'm gonna try to
Oh, we
find
will,
some
yeah.
more time. Yeah, find some more time to put you guys on stage to talk a little bit more. And then Sunday, it's gonna be. I'm very excited. We've been waiting to do this because we've known that we needed this in Austin for a while. It will be a very special stunt intensive being kicked off by Keith and Keith. And we had our famous guests here, so we really appreciate that. They're going to kick off our inaugural event, and this will be something we'll do, over the years. We have stunt trainings here. We have stage combat trainings here. People like Knox, people like Austin Warrior Arts. These people are doing trainings, but we haven't seen a lot of things that are condensed. One day to really get you going. One day to take you from actor to competent action performer, or at least giving you the right direction to go in.
Right.
Nothing where if you're a stunt person and maybe you haven't done enough wire training, I need a refresher. Now you can do some wires, some pulls, some yanks. Get to upgrade your skills, tricking, parkour. We have a variety of classes we're going to be doing. Do you like lightsabers? We will have lightsabers. I'm a Form 5 practitioner. There's a saber behind me. So we're going to be teaching lightsaber in some basic kendo and fencing. So from stage combat to falls to specialty abilities, we're going to help you with all of those things. And in addition to that, we're inviting some directors and producers and casting agents out. So when you show up, there are going to be people who are looking for actors, who are looking for stunt people, because we are also trying to help you get the work. In the back of this area, we're looking at setting something else up for you actors, where you get to do some auditions. You get to do some auditions, you get to talk, you get to chat about what it is you want to be doing, do some slating, do a reading. So we're going to have some different ways for you to do that, because people need to be able to show that they can act as well. So casting will be happening from the action side, casting will be happening from the pure actor side. We're trying to turn this into one big business bonanza intensive. Okay, we want you to win. We're doing everything we can to help you win. It's your job to be humble, be excited, and to show up. So, did I miss anything?
I think you got it. We'll see you there in Austin. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. We'll catch
Thank
you
you.
guys in the next one. We'll put the
All
names
right.
up here.
Thank you.
Follow us. And Keith, if they want to follow you on any social medias, where's the best place to do that at?
Instagram. I think my Instagram is Keith S821, and Keith Vitali is on Instagram as well. So Keith Vitali's got a YouTube channel with his podcast. So
Okay.
good.
We're going to check
All
all
right.
that out. Yeah. Appreciate you. Violence Conductor.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you guys, and looking forward to seeing you in Austin.
Absolutely.
Same here.
Thank you.
Thanks for